How's your week?
Good, man. I think so. The highlight of my week, I've been dealing with a flat tire all week long. I haven't had the time to like go in and get it like patched or get it looked at or anything like that. So literally, I wake up in the morning. I'm like doing my morning routine, and then right before I'm about to leave to come into work, I have to like stop at a gas station.
Wait, is this today or?
Oh, this has been all week.
Okay.
Since Monday. And no, the crazy thing is I didn't realize it was flat on Monday. I drove into work on a flat tire, and I think that made it worse.
Right, that tends to happen.
So yeah, I've been dealing with that all week.
So that's your highlight?
That's my highlight.
Have you got it fixed?
No. I'm going to go get it looked at today.
Okay.
Finally.
So you've been driving all week on a flat tire?
No. Like, I'm, like, stopping and filling it up on my way. Like, I'll fill it up, and it holds enough air to get me to work.
Yeah, it's just got a little
But by the
leak.
time I go back to the garage, like, it's already starting to get flat again.
Wow.
So then I have to, like, stop at another gas station before I head back home.
Yeah.
Or head to a game or wherever I'm going and fill it up again.
Well, I don't want to get your hopes up. One time, a couple months ago, I had like a leak like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this, but some tire shops, like, they'll patch it for free.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I was like, the guy gave me my keys back, and he's like, okay, well, have a good one. And I was like.
And that's what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah, I didn't say anything, but I'm like, because obviously I don't want to, it's like the kid, like, wait, teacher, do we have homework? Like, you don't want to be that kid. Like, I'm not going to be like,
do I have to pay for this?
Do I have to pay? But mentally in my head, he gave me my keys back,
Right.
and I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm hoping I can finally get that done today. I just haven't had the chance to stop anywhere to get that done.
One time my tire blew out, like, on the freeway.
Ooh.
That was scary.
That sucks.
That was scary.
I haven't had that happen. Knock on some wood.
Well, Alex, I hope you get that straightened
Thanks,
out. Hopefully it's nothing too bad. If you're able to drive on it and keep filling it up, sounds like everything should be fine. So hopefully all is well. Highlight of my week, nothing crazy happened. Last night took the wife out for dinner and ice cream, just a little date night, I guess. So
Ruth's Chris?
No. No. They don't pay us enough for that here.
Oh, man.
No. Just had a nice little Mexican restaurant up in Logan. So
okay.
That was good.
Logan?
Not Logan, Ogden.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. But yeah, it's nice to get out once in a while. Sometimes life gets a little crazy. Don't want to forget about the little things like that. So.
Absolutely, man.
But you mentioned earlier we got the divisional round of the NFL playoffs today, so I'm sure that by the time 1:30 rolls around, that will be the highlight of my week.
I agree.
Sorry, 2:30. That's when it starts today. We got the Texans and the Chiefs kicking off at 2:30. Then later tonight, we're going to have the Commanders at the Lions. Before we jump into the actual games and the playoffs that we have today, let's talk a little bit of coaching news. Alex, the coaching cycle is pretty interesting this offseason. We haven't seen a ton of hires made. In fact, the only one I can think of that was made was the New England Patriots hiring Mike Vrabel, former player. He played for them for a while and had a couple of really good seasons. I believe he was a D tackle or linebacker for the Patriots. But I like Vrabel. I think he's a really good coach. He spent a few seasons with the Tennessee Titans, and he got them all the way to I believe they made the AFC Championship game, which is crazy, with Ryan Tannehill as the quarterback. But, of course, that team was heavily, heavily carried by Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown. So I like Vrabel. I think that his time in Tennessee was cut short because he didn't have very good relationships with the general manager. Of course, things went downhill when the general manager traded A.J. Brown away to the Philadelphia Eagles. And, I mean, there's an infamous video you can go watch. It was during a draft when the Titans made that trade, and you could see Mike Vrabel's reaction, and he was just irate. He was furious, and I would be too, because A.J. Brown is a special player, and to this day I don't understand why the Titans made that trade. But anyways, Mike Vrabel to the New England Patriots. I like the hire. I like the move. Drake May had a solid rookie season, so we'll see what kind of offensive assistance Mike Vrabel can bring in to help with the development of Drake May, but obviously bringing in a former player Well, it's funny because Gerard Mayo, their previous head coach that only lasted 1 year.
Also a former player?
Also a former player, but I like Vrabel, and he has the head coaching experience, and I think that's big. I think pairing a rookie head coach with a rookie quarterback was always a mistake, but let's see how Vrabel does.
I agree with you on his time at Tennessee being cut short. I thought he did a pretty decent job with Tennessee. That year they went to the AFC Championship game. They were 9-7 in the regular season.
Not that great.
Not that great, but they still made it to the championship
game. They
game.
had Marcus Mariota and Ryan Tannehill as their quarterbacks.
Crazy. That's crazy. He bounces back the next year, goes 11-5, has an early exit in the playoffs, didn't make it past the wild card. Then you go 12-5 the next year, but then after that, like you mentioned, key players traded away, key pieces that made that Tennessee team good traded away. And I feel like he wasn't really set up in a position to continue to succeed with Tennessee.
No.
And he was kind of used as a scapegoat. I think we can all kind of agree to that.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's really fascinating to me as far as relationships in the NFL. Like, it's so hard to get your general manager and head coach on the same page, and it seems like when a team is unsuccessful, that's the first thing you can point to.
It's always the coach.
Yeah, the coach and the general manager not being on the same page as far as roles for the players and pieces that need to be brought in. Because if you think about it, the coach is like, oh, I can only do so much with the players I'm given. Give me this, this, and this. The general manager says, okay, well, this is the direction the franchise needs to go. I think this player would be a good fit. But then, if they don't have a good relationship, the general manager can't force the coach to play this player or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the general manager can say, hey, I think A.J. Brown's trade value is worth more than what he's giving us on the field. So let's trade him away before we have to pay him a bunch of money. And so that's essentially what Tennessee did. So, yeah, again, when you see a team that's struggling, look at the general manager, look at the head coach, and their relationship probably is not good. So we'll see. Some other interesting head coaching openings. Obviously, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think, is an interesting one because they've got Trevor Lawrence, former number 1 overall pick, got a huge contract, got a few pretty high draft picks on that team, but they've never been able to put it together. Looked like they had some potential with Doug Peterson, but he really lost the team over the last season. The Las Vegas Raiders, another interesting coaching spot, because they're in Vegas, because Tom Brady's a minority owner. So we'll see how that goes. And then, of course, Chicago. Who knows what's going to happen there? Historic franchise. Caleb Williams going into his second year. So we'll see. If you were a head coach, where would you want to go?
If I was a head coach, and I'm looking at these openings, I think probably the most lucrative now. I would have to probably say Vegas.
Really?
I would probably say Las Vegas.
That's interesting.
I don't know if I'd want any part of the Jets.
Oh, Cowboys. Cowboys and Jets are two franchises that I didn't mention that have openings,
yes,
as well as the Saints.
I don't think I'd want to go anywhere near the Saints.
No.
I don't think I want to go anywhere near the Bears. Jacksonville to me doesn't seem like a lucrative job because similar to the Cowboys, I think ownership is not really putting the team in a position to succeed. And then I think Raiders is probably number 1 for me, and Cowboys is probably number 2.
Interesting. So I would have the Raiders pretty low because I feel like the roster sucks. I don't know. What is it that you like about the Raiders?
A new GM's coming in.
Uh-huh.
You got a new GM. It's in Vegas. You can make something happen there.
Yeah.
I feel like it's an attractive place for players to go if they can get a good GM to go and right the ship.
That's a big one.
So I think the Vegas job teeters a lot on if they can hire a decent GM.
I liked their previous GM, Telesco, as well. But, of course, they just want a clean slate. Compared to the Jacksonville Jaguars, they chose to keep Balky, their GM, when they fired Doug Peterson, which is kind of a big concern because some of the rumor is, at least looking at Ben Johnson, the Lions' current offensive coordinator, one of the hottest names in this head coaching cycle, the rumor is that he has, some. He would prefer to have a clean slate wherever he goes. He wants to have a new GM with him wherever he goes. And the Jaguars have kind of said, the owner has said that he said it like on an interview with the GM on the call with him. He basically said he'd fire this guy for the right head coaching candidate.
Oof.
Like, let's say they brought Ben Johnson over and Ben was like, yeah, I don't want to work with Balky. Then Shad Khan would say, okay, Balky, get out. So I think that's funny. But it is interesting, having those. The Jets are another place that have a head coach and a general manager opening. So bringing those two positions in together and seeing what they can do. Well, did the Jets? No, they haven't made a general manager hire. But I agree. I don't think New York is an attractive destination. So we'll see how this goes. I think.
What are the Dallas Cowboys doing?
Oh, it's got to be Dion, right?
I mean, now it seems like it has to be Dion. It seems like the most logical thing, because to me it just doesn't make sense that the week of the wild card, 2 weeks ago or whatever, right after the season ended, when everybody gets fired and teams start opening up the interview process for the coordinators and other people that are still affiliated to other teams.
Yes,
the Cowboys are like, oh, we're going to keep Mike McCarthy. We're happy. We're happy with what we're doing. We're happy with where we are. We're going to keep Mike.
The Bears requested to interview Mike McCarthy, and Dallas said no.
Yes,
they said nope. He's under contract with us. You can't interview him.
But then you do a complete 180, and
a week later,
and you're like, oh, you know what?
Actually, we're not bringing him back.
We are going to mutually part ways with Mike McCarthy.
Which I don't think McCarthy's a very good head coach, anyways. Not that I care what the Cowboys do. It doesn't affect me if they have a good head coach or not. In fact, I like when they have a bad head coach so I can make fun of them. But, I mean, considering the clown show that Dallas has become, especially with Jerry Jones as of late, bring Dion in, bring the celebrity in, see if that'll help you be a better team. I don't think it is, but, I mean, goodness, Alex, they're paying so much money to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Micah Parsons is going to sign a monster deal probably this offseason. So they have some of the richest contracts in the league at very, very premium positions. Their roster is so tied up as far as, they have no money left over after they're paying those three guys, which, I mean, for sure, CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, pay them every penny, right? I don't think Dak is worth $60 million a year, but it's too late now. I don't know why. I can't remember if we were doing this show when Dak signed that deal, but I always thought it was a mistake to sign that deal last summer instead of waiting until this year.
Right.
So, anyways, I do think that Dallas is in a tough spot, and if they don't bring in Dion, I don't know what they're going to do, because I don't know if any actual NFL coach would want to work for Jerry Jones right now.
You have the talent, right? Micah Parsons, phenomenal football player. CeeDee Lamb, phenomenal football player. The talent is there. It's just everything that goes along with being the Cowboys head coach.
Yeah. It's like the Jets.
I don't know who would want to touch that.
No, I wouldn't either.
Except Dion.
And nobody, again, going back to Jerry Jones, nobody wants to work for him.
Right.
He's a meddler.
He is.
He has his grimy little fingers in everything.
He's got too much.
His oily.
Oh God.
Well, that's what he is. He's an oil mogul, right? His grimy little oil fingers.
Oh man.
All over.
That's nasty.
Let's switch gears. Let's look at the games today, because we've got some really fun games this weekend.
We do.
Again, the Texans and the Chiefs starting things off today at 2:30. I guess the question here is, what chance do you give the Texans of knocking off the number 1 seed? Because most people picked the Texans to lose last week to the Chargers, and they actually came in and kicked butt.
We did too.
Yeah, we when
did
I
too.
say most people, it's including us.
We did too, and now they're into the next round, heading to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. I'm not giving them a chance.
I give them a chance, and here's my reasoning.
Okay.
The Chiefs won so many fluky games this season. I mean, they're, 15-2?
15-2.
Great record. I don't want to diminish that, but I'm going to. I do want to diminish that, so I will. They had so many fluky wins as far as they won a game off of missed pass interference calls that clearly should have been called. They won a game off of a BS pass interference call that was called for no reason. They won a game off of a blocked field goal, right? So how many fluky one-score wins did they have? And, I got to give them credit for winning those games. Like, that does take something. But to continue that in the playoffs is a big ask. So if it comes down to a situation like that, you can either say, okay, the Chiefs always win this sort of game because it's the Chiefs and they're the darlings right now. You could say that, or you can go the road I'm taking, saying, you know what, the playoffs are a different animal, and that's not how you win games in the playoffs. I'm interested to see what the Chiefs look like because their starters haven't played since basically the Christmas game.
Yep.
So it's been almost a month since all of their starters have played. I really do think that they're going to come out looking a little rusty. So if the Texans can get out to a hot start, I really do like their chances. And their defense looked phenomenal last week. I brought up their key to beating the Chargers would be Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter putting pressure on. And it's the same thing. I mean, the Chiefs are starting Joe Thuney, their all-pro left guard. They're starting him at left tackle today because of that fearsome pass rush. So we'll see how they hold up.
I think for the Texans, their defense last week showed up. I thought their defense looked absolutely phenomenal against the Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert, we thought was going to be a legacy for game for him, instead throws 4 interceptions.
Legacy in the wrong direction.
Legacy in the complete opposite direction. But I think this game with the Texans and the Chiefs, I think it's going to be a lot closer than I think the people are giving the Texans credit for. If the defense can show up the way that they did last week, I think it'll be a lot closer than people say it's going to be against the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think ultimately Kansas City Chiefs will edge it because Mahomes has been in this situation before. Kelsey's been in this situation before. All their vets have been in this situation before.
Experience matters.
The experience is going to matter. This is C.J. Stroud's first ever divisional game. I think the Chiefs have the edge, but it'll be a lot closer than people are giving them credit for.
One thing that I thought was hilarious. Somebody retweeted a picture from 2019, and it was a meme. Okay, and it said who America is rooting for in the playoffs, and it was all Kansas City Chiefs except for Massachusetts, and it was the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
And it's just funny to think how the script has flipped
Yes.
since then, right?
Well, I mean, you've got 2 Super Bowls back to back.
Back to back.
Let somebody else have fun.
Yeah. Let's get on with it, guys.
Yes.
On to the next game. Commanders at Lions tonight at 6. Lions running back David Montgomery is expected to make his return. He hurt his knee in Week 15. He had an MCL injury. He went to see 3 different specialists, and the first 2 recommended that he had season-ending surgery. And finally, the third one was like, you know what? I think you can rehab it for a few weeks and come back for the playoffs. And Montgomery, Demont, he said, yeah, let's do that. So we'll see. Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously,
Has been incredible.
He had a great game against the Vikings in the final week of the regular season, 4 touchdowns. Sonic and Knuckles is what they have been called. Sonic being Jahmyr Gibbs, Knuckles being David Montgomery. Wonderful 1-2 punch. Montgomery had over 700 rushing yards on the year, so they really, really are a great tandem. I like their chances tonight because Washington struggles against the run. That is their weakest point on defense, and Detroit has no problem running up the gut.
I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to step up and have in a really fun game against the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels, I think, is going to give it his all, obviously. It would be amazing to see Jaden Daniels knock off the Lions, but I think the Lions are just playing too good football right now.
Yeah. They're on fire.
They look...
Number 1 seed in the NFC.
They look nearly unbeatable at the moment.
I guess I never made my pick for the AFC game. Man. Screw it. I'll go Texans.
Okay.
I'm going Texans-Lions today. You're going Chiefs-Lions?
Chiefs-Lions.
All right. Sean?
I've definitely got the Chiefs.
Chiefs?
And definitely the Lions.
Okay.
There's no chance, in my mind, that the Commanders can do anything. They might keep it close, but
Yeah.
I don't see it.
All right. Well, on to tomorrow's games. The schedule's a little funky tomorrow. We've got a 1 o'clock game and a 4:30 game. The first game tomorrow being the Rams at the Eagles. The Rams, oh my gosh, played their minds out on Monday night against the Vikings.
They followed the line script.
They did, and that is make Sam Darnold uncomfortable.
They made Sam Darnold very uncomfortable. Justin Jefferson barely had an opportunity to make plays. When he did, he made good plays.
Yeah.
But man, that defense with how many rookies and how many young guys they have, I'm incredibly excited for the future of the Rams defense.
Oh, what an absolute masterclass they put on.
100%.
Sam Darnold was sacked 9 times. I think he was hit around 20 times. I don't remember the exact number, but man, did Sam Darnold lose himself a lot of money over the last 2 weeks. That's crazy, but don't want to spend too much time on the past. The last time these two teams played, I can't remember what week it was, but Saquon Barkley had over 200 rushing yards versus the Rams. But the thing is, since that game, the Rams' run defense has really stepped up and have barely allowed over 100 yards a game. So what do you think the key to victory is for the Rams tomorrow if they want to upset the Eagles?
Got to contain Saquon. That's first and foremost. It was 255 rushing yards the last time these two teams played.
Okay. Put the game in Jalen Hurts' hands.
Put the game in Jalen Hurts' hand. Neutralize Saquon as much as you can on the defensive side of the ball for the Rams, and I think you have a chance. But ultimately, I think the Eagles will take it.
This is an interesting game because the Rams won a Super Bowl not too long ago, and the Eagles have been to a Super Bowl really recently as well. So, I mean, these are two great franchises. The Eagles roster, I mean, is mostly the same. They maintain most of their key players from that Super Bowl run. The Rams roster offensively is pretty similar. Defensively, of course, they don't have Aaron Donald or Von Miller that they had on that Super Bowl defense. So the defense, like you mentioned earlier, really young, a lot of rookies, but Jared Verse has looked really good. We talked about him when we were giving our defensive rookie of the year picks. Jared Verse has played phenomenal. The Eagles' offensive line is probably the best in the league. So the Rams are going to have a harder time getting to Jalen Hurts, but I agree with you there. You know, it's scary saying let's force Jalen Hurts to get the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith because they are so good. But I think that is the Rams' best chance of victory is saying, you know, Jalen Hurts had a little bit of a down year this year. Let's force him to make plays.
And then you have A.J. Brown, who's reading books on the sideline.
Yeah.
Because he just hasn't been getting the ball this year. You know?
Well, yeah, and part of that goes back to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has had a really down year, but
he has.
I think this is going to be a fun game tomorrow. I think that the Rams are one of the most explosive teams. They can be. Sometimes their offense slows down a little bit, but Kyron Williams on the ground is good, and then, of course, you've got Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. And then, the Eagles have all that firepower as well. So, it's hard to predict if this game is going to be a shootout or, some old-fashioned gridiron between the tackles style play. But either way, I think that's going to be a great game. So you're going Eagles. I'll do Rams, man.
Okay.
I'll pick your boys.
All right.
I'm not a big believer in the Eagles. I think their head coach is kind of a clown.
I think for this one too, with the Rams, as dangerous as they have been, Jared Verse, the rookie, going out into the media this week and saying that he hates Eagles fans and he hates everything about them. I think that's a rookie mistake.
Either going to be a memorable quote or a huge mistake.
Oh, rookie mistake.
That's firepower, buddy.
Yeah, you don't say that about Eagles fans heading into a divisional game.
That is probably the worst fan base
to
say that to.
Yeah.
Because they are crazy. So, I mean, it's true. He's not wrong, but you don't say it.
You don't say it, and so I think it's going to be it was already going to be a hostile environment to begin with.
In Philadelphia,
Philadelphia. But you've just added so much more fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see how the crowd reacts to that.
And then the game that I'm most excited for, and I think everybody will agree with me, the Ravens at the Bills tomorrow, 4:30 in Buffalo. the two front runners for MVP. Lamar Jackson was first team All-Pro. Josh Allen was second team All-Pro at quarterback. What a matchup. And it's really unfortunate that this is the divisional round game instead of the AFC Championship, because I think either of these two teams is going to the Super Bowl. Whoever wins this game is going to beat the I almost said the Chiefs, assuming the Chiefs are going to win, but I picked Texans. Whoever wins this game tomorrow night is going to the Super Bowl for the AFC.
Wow.
Ravens at Bills. I still don't know who I'm going to pick here. Do you have thoughts? Or you're just excited for it?
I'm excited for it. This is MVP on the line. You have an all-timer in the making.
Yeah.
Tomorrow at 4:30 on CBS.
You know, you think of classic playoff games that we've seen. You can think of, there's a lot that come to my mind. Most recently, I'd probably point to the Chiefs and Bills one where it went to overtime and the 13 seconds and all that.
Yes.
I think this game has a chance to be just as dramatic as that one.
I totally agree.
Have you seen the weather forecast for it?
I have not, but I heard it's supposed to be cold.
It's supposed to be like 8 degrees.
Oof.
With wind chill, it's supposed to be around 0.
Ooh.
It's supposed to feel like 0. So it's going to be tough, but both of these teams like to run the football, so that's not really going to affect them. Derrick Henry, a monster. Josh Allen, monster. I mean, you talk about two of the physical peaks of the game, right?
Yes.
In those two players. Zay Flowers, I think Zay Flowers is not playing for the Ravens, their best receiver.
Yes.
I don't know how much that hurts them because, again, they like to run the football so much. And, you got Lamar and Derrick Henry, and you can be so creative with that running game. But when you look to passing the football for the Ravens, not having Zay Flowers is a big loss because he's by far their best receiver. I'm curious to what their passing game really looks like against a good defense without Zay.
And I don't think, if you look on the other side of the ball for the Buffalo Bills, I don't think James Cook gets enough credit. He has been absolutely phenomenal this season, has 16 touchdowns on the year, as well as Derrick Henry, who has 16. I don't think James Cook gets enough credit for how good he is for this Buffalo Bills team. You have two phenomenal quarterbacks going head-to-head. You have two solid, really good running backs going head-to-head. But I think ultimately, I'm going to give the edge to the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
I think this one is going to be won by the defense, and I think Baltimore has the better defense.
You know what? All week when I've been thinking about this game, Alex, I was leaning Baltimore. But I woke up this morning and I'm feeling different. It's Josh Allen's time to shine. They're in Buffalo. The Chiefs look the most vulnerable that they've looked in recent memory.
Yes.
Again, whoever wins this game tomorrow, I believe, is going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I think the script is there. Lamar is going to win MVP. Josh Allen is going to win this game tomorrow and go to the Super Bowl. So I'm picking Buffalo.
Okay.
So I'm going Texans, Lions, Rams, Bills. You're going Chiefs, Lions, Eagles, Ravens.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. It's going to be so fun tonight, man.
It's going to be an incredible weekend. Sean, your thoughts on the two games tomorrow?
Yeah, I think those games are going to be a lot closer than the ones today. I think I've got the Rams. I'm just picking McVay over Sirianni.
Yeah.
And then I think it's Ravens.
Okay.
I think Lamar, he's just so creative.
There we
and
go.
Fun to watch.
I would not
rooting for him.
I would not be mad for either team to make it.
No.
You know, I love Lamar. Hope he succeeds. I love Josh Allen, and I hope he succeeds. I'm not mad either way, but I do think Baltimore has the edge.
There we go. Fun weekend. Outside of the Chiefs, I think I'd like to see any of these teams in the Super Bowl,
100%.
honestly.
100%.
So let's go.
Let somebody else have fun, Chiefs.
One thing I want to do, I want to encourage you, the listener, to use the KSL Sports app. We have a call-in feature on the KSL Sports app. In the left-hand corner, I believe, you can just press that and you can record an audio message to send in to us. So use that. Again, download the KSL Sports app, use the call-in feature, and send us your picks for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Tell us what you think. So there's that. Again, starting at 2:30 today. We're way over. Time for a break here. On the other side, let's talk some Jazz and Utah Hockey Club. win-loss record, not great, but there are some interesting storylines to look at for both teams. So we'll hit that next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Great song, Sean. Love it. Love some Sublime to start off your Saturday morning. It is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles with me. Last segment, we were previewing the exciting slate of NFL games we've got this weekend. Now it's time to slow things down a bit.
Yeah.
We're going from exciting to borderline dreadful, Alex. Let's talk Jazz and let's talk Utah Hockey Club. Speaking of that, we are going to be giving away Jazz tickets next hour at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. So stay tuned for your chance to win a 4-pack of Jazz tickets. I say that in jest because the Jazz have been so funny to me in that, you know, earlier in the season, they were losing games because they have 3 rookies this year, 3 second-round guys as well. So a lot of inexperience, and that led to a lot of losing. Lately, Alex, the Jazz have had to turn to, like, actually trying to tank to lose games. And I mean, like, resting Colin Sexton.
Oh, yeah.
A guy that has probably never rested a day in his life. I mean, that's all people talk about when it comes to Colin Sexton is his work ethic and how coachable he is and how great of a player he is to have on this roster and organization. And they're like, Colin, you're too good for us right now. I think you should you look like you need a break. So he rested. They've been resting Walker Kessler a couple games. Lauri Markkanen has had some flare-ups, quote unquote, that he probably could play through if the team wanted him to. Then you've got some real injuries. I mean, Jordan Clarkson dealing with plantar fasciitis. That's always no fun. Johnny Juzang broke his hand.
Oof.
That's no fun. And then, of course, Taylor Hendricks still out with his broken leg. So we've seen some fun things, though, with the Jazz over the past few games. I think Isaiah Collier has been a real bright spot. He recorded his first double-double the other day. 11 points, 10 assists. Ben Anderson thinks that Isaiah Collier is going to be the man to break the triple-double curse for the Jazz. Keontae George has played well. Bryce Sensabaugh has played well. Thoughts on the Jazz?
Hey. I think right now with everything going on, yes, losing sucks. You don't want to lose. But the best scenario for the Jazz is that you're losing games while getting good performances from your young guys. I've been happy and impressed with these steps Keontae George has taken. Was playing really well, got hurt, was out for a little bit, and then he's been back and he's been playing pretty well for the Jazz. Isaiah Collier, I think, has taken a big step in the last couple of weeks. The way he dishes out and play makes really fun to see. We talked about Bryce Sensabaugh a little bit last week where he had those stellar games in Florida and then has to sit out for a little bit because of an illness.
He was another that's right. He was actually sick. He had the
yes.
Sounds like maybe the flu or something.
Yes. But this is perfect scenario for the Jazz.
Yeah.
You go to the Pelicans, who are also one of the worst teams in the Western Conference at this moment. You look at the standings, and you have the Jazz and the Pelicans at the bottom of the Western Conference. You go to the Pelicans win, but it's still a good performance for these rookies and for these young guys. That is best case scenario, I think, for the Utah Jazz. The Jazz now hold the bottom spot in the Western Conference. They have the worst record in the West at 10-30. The Pelicans jump over them at 11-32 now with the win last night. So you improve your lottery odds while developing and seeing good performances from the young guys. Best scenario for the Utah Jazz.
Getting the good performances is key because one thing I want to point to, the Jazz have not been embarrassed, like actually blown out or embarrassed.
No, far from it.
Since December 16th against the Clippers. I just lost it, but it was like 144 to 107. Obviously big blowout by LA. But since then, the Jazz have won a few games, but their losses have been competitive. And DJ talked about this a little bit yesterday on the DJ and PK show. You know, when you're a bad team for whatever reason, youth movement, wanting a better draft pick. Like, it's embarrassing to look at the sideline of the opposing team and see them laughing at how bad your team is, right? But that's not what's happening with the Jazz, especially over the last month. Like, their losses have been competitive in large part to the play that we are getting from these young players. Last night against the Pelicans, the Jazz leading scorer was Keontae George, 26 points on 4 of 9 shooting from 3. 9 of 20 overall isn't great, but the 3-point shooting looking pretty good for Keontae. Colin Sexton, he did return to the lineup. He had 24 points. You had some decent performances from guys like Svi Mikhailuk, a guy that I think might get moved at the trade deadline because he's too good of a role player for the Jazz. Bryce Sensabaugh off the bench, 15 points. So, you're getting development. And again, like we talked early on, one of our main talking points for this season for the Jazz was, what good does it do if you're throwing these kids out and they're getting their butts kicked every night?
Yes.
Because not only is it embarrassing, it doesn't accomplish anything. Lo and behold, it's a long season. It's an 82-game season. The players have gotten better, obviously, since the beginning of the season.
100%.
And we're seeing it even as far as the margins of loss for the Jazz. And, of course, they're picking up a couple wins here and there. But we are seeing that growth in just the way that this team loses. And, New Orleans is a team that they obviously have a lot of talent. Their record isn't great, but they have a lot of talent. Zion Williamson, of course, 24 points last night. Phenomenal player. Brandon Ingram, really good player. CJ McCollum is pretty good. Trey Murphy has really come on the scene the last couple years. Herb Jones, he didn't play last night, but he's a great player as well. So they obviously have the talent there in New Orleans. And, when it comes to the record matchup, the Jazz and the Pelicans last night, 2 of the worst records in the West. Yeah, that's a huge game for the Jazz to lose. So, they're accomplishing everything. They're getting growth out of the young kids, and they're not hurting their standings in the draft. We've actually seen some big wins as far as the tankathon standings in the NBA. Obviously, the Jazz lost to Charlotte. That's huge. Portland and Brooklyn have picked up a couple wins in the last week. New Orleans beat the Jazz as well. So those are all big if you're a hashtag tank note-er. those are all
Hashtag gap
big.
to the flag.
Yeah. And then the Jazz schedule over the next 9 or 10 games is rough. Going into the All-Star break and such. They play the Pelicans again on Monday. I'd be surprised if the Jazz win that. They play the Thunder. They play the Grizzlies, Bucks, Warriors, Timberwolves, Magic, Pacers, Warriors, Suns. So, those are all borderline playoff teams aside from, the Pelicans.
If they can continue this stretch where you're playing competitive basketball, you're staying within 10, you pick up those losses and you continue to improve your draft positioning while continuing to see good performances from Collier, good performances from George, the list can go on. You're set up. I think the Jazz are set up in a perfect situation because you're allowing these guys to grow. And you're right. That conversation at the beginning of the season was when does the losses hurt these young guys? But we're seeing the opposite now. The last month, the young guys have taken, I think, a really nice step forward, and that's exactly what you want. And I think if they can go into this All-Star break in a position where they're still bottom 2 in the West, you're right where you want to be if you're a Jazz fan.
Oh, they're going to be.
You're right where you want to be if you're a Jazz fan.
And again, the Jazz might get to the point where they have to make some moves at the deadline as far as trading some vets away. Again, Svi Mikhailuk, a name that I'm keeping an eye on. You never know what can happen with Drew Eubanks. Just some of these older vets that obviously don't fit the timeline, right? See what you can get for them while also making yourself worse. Because Svi has been a really good role player, and I'm a little surprised at that one. I guess I wasn't really familiar with him when he came in. I thought he was kind of just a name. Jake and Ben joked that he has the same agent as Lauri Markkanen, so they were maybe doing him a favor by that. But he has actually been a really good player that can obviously contribute to winning basketball. And so, by the time the deadline rolls around, I think he's going to be a name that could be traded. And you never know what could happen with guys like Jordan Clarkson or whatever. So keep an eye on there. I did see one stat, transitioning a little bit. The Jazz and the Utah Hockey Club have the worst combined home record in the 2024-25 season. Combined, they have won 9 total games at the Delta Center this year.
That is insane.
It makes sense for the Jazz because they are where they are.
Right.
For the Utah Hockey Club, that stings a little bit. They have really, really, really struggled. I mean, you look at the last 12 games, and I think they've lost 10 of 12. It's bad. They've lost 3 in a row, by the way.
What happened to the vibes, man?
I have no idea. There's a lot. I think a lot of it obviously plays into inexperience.
Yes.
Dylan Gunther, your top goal scorer, is hurt, so that's going to make things harder for you to score, which was already a problem for them to begin with. Connor Ingram returned from some personal issues that he was dealing with, and I think he has kind of struggled a little bit. The defense banged up, but they got John Marino back. I don't really know what the fix is.
I don't like the vibes that I'm seeing online from the Utah Hockey Club.
As far as from the fans?
As far as from the fans, as far as from the team, right? This is a poor stretch. This is a really poor stretch for the Utah Hockey Club. And I find the comments made by head coach Andre Turney really interesting, where he talks about how he likes the performance.
Yeah.
But it's just not getting the job done.
Right.
And I think you have to figure out how to fix that really fast and really quickly, because at this point, you're going to play yourself out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, and if they haven't already, I mean, it's each loss makes it obviously worse and worse.
And the worst part about it is you're on a 7-game home stretch.
Yeah.
And you're not getting the job done. You've got to figure out ways to win in your barn, and you got to figure it out quick.
They're getting quality shots is the thing, and that's
right.
We both listen to Andre Tourigny almost every day when he has his media availability, and he continuously talks about he really does like the looks and the shots that they're generating for themselves on offense. They're just not going in. And how that gets fixed, I don't know. The other day he had an interesting quote that I really liked. He said he likes the quality. They just need more quantity. The more shots you put up, the more are going to go in. So we'll see how that goes. The hockey club plays tonight. They host the Blues again as part of this 7-game homestand. It is game 6 of the 7-game homestand, by the way. So,
how many of those, you're looking at the schedule, how many of those in the 7-game stretch have they won, out of curiosity?
They beat San Jose.
Yeah.
And that's it.
1 of 6 or 1 of 5?
1 of 5 so far. Game 6 is tonight, and then Game 7 is Monday. So, yeah, you're 1 of 5 at home currently during a 7-game
That's not
homestand.
good, man.
They beat the Sharks 2-1 on Friday, January 10th.
They need a big win tonight against the Blues, I think, to fix the vibes, for sure.
Quickly, though, I do want to mention Logan Cooley has been a bright spot.
Yes.
By far. Over the past couple games, I believe he's scored a goal. And definitely the last 2 games. It might be the last 3, but Cooley's just phenomenal. And it is hard because he does play into the youth being maybe one of the reasons why they're struggling so much right now, because they are just a young team. Logan Cooley's I think he's 21 years old. Like,
right.
That's hard.
Yeah.
You think of, I get it that they're professional athletes. And, I mean, this is Cooley's 2nd or 3rd year as part of this organization, right? So he's not brand new to this. But it's a 21-year-old out there on the ice with these grown men. And so I think there's just still a lot of youth, a lot of inexperience, and that makes it tough for you in a multitude of ways. I think one thing that we've seen with the Utah Hockey Club is they kind of get bullied around a lot. They get pushed around. A lot of teams are just more physical because they're playing against kids, quite literally. So, the only way to combat that, I guess, is just to get older, and that you can't do that immediately, right?
Right.
So it's you say, well, come back in a couple of years when these guys fill out a little more.
And one of the things that I've noticed that has been a common topic between some of the older veterans on the team is maturity.
Yeah.
And that's just something, I mean, you can coach it to an extent,
right?
But how much can you coach maturity?
And it's not a bad thing like saying, oh, these are bad players to have on your roster because they're immature. No, it's a matter of, you give up back-to-back goals. How do you keep yourself from hanging your head and giving up?
Right.
So that's what you mean as far as maturity. And just putting together a full 60 minutes, a full 3 periods of hockey, that's something that we haven't really seen from these guys, especially as of late. I mean, they really struggled in the second period at times. The other night versus the Rangers, they really struggled in the third period after putting together first and second really good periods. So it's like, how can you get good performance for a full game? And that plays into the whole maturity and youth aspect of it as well. So I'm hoping for a turnaround. Obviously, I think everybody is locally because we want to see this team make the playoffs, right? But the thing is, it was never a guarantee in the first place. Like we were always saying, this is a borderline playoff team, which means they're either going to barely make it in or they're going to barely be on the outside. And the fact of the matter is that's where they're sitting right now, is barely on the outside. They still have a chance to play in, but it is going to take a winning streak. So,
and it starts tonight against the Blues.
Hopefully against the Blues. We are way over. We got to take a break. Stay tuned. Again, we're going to be giving away Jazz tickets later in the 11 o'clock segment. You won't want to miss that. We're going to give away a 4-pack of Jazz tickets. But coming up next, we're going to do our technical fouls segment, talk about some of the funnier things that happen in the world of sports this week. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
There's a modern music show, that's a technical foul. If you touch the thermostat,
you'll get hit with a bat.
'Cause that's a technical foul.
You will feel my wrath.
That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Joining me, as always, Alex Napoles. It is time for Technical Fouls, one of our favorite segments of the show every week. In this segment, we talk about some of the sillier and goofier things in sports, some of the funnier headlines that you might see and laugh at. Alex, start us off today. You've got a really good one. I like this one a lot.
So I think people are still working to verify all the facts on this story, but there's some outlets out there like ESPN Radio who have come out and have picked up wind that the Las Vegas Raiders might have picked the wrong player in the 2023 NFL Draft. Oof. And that's because in that draft there were 2 Byron Youngs. There was a D-tackle, Byron Young, and there was the Byron Young who's been absolutely incredible and phenomenal for the Los Angeles Rams.
And let me guess. Okay, you spoiled it, but let me guess. So the Raiders picked the one that you didn't just compliment.
There's some pages have been claiming that the Raiders have actually even called the Byron Young that plays for the Rams and was like, "Hey, we're gonna pick you."
Oh,
and then
gosh.
when the pick came up, that call didn't come. So the Raiders picked the wrong Byron Young, and now this other Byron Young is basically a roster depth piece on the Eagles now.
Oh, he is. He's not even with the Raiders
anymore. He's not even
anymore.
with the Raiders anymore. He's with the Eagles now.
And he's a defensive tackle. He went to Alabama.
Yes.
And the one for the Rams went to, was it
Tennessee? Tennessee.
2 big SEC schools.
Yes.
But yeah, you shouldn't mix that up.
And it's funny because Byron Young, right, last year had an incredible rookie year. Has been probably one of the better players on that Rams defense and has a really bright future ahead of him. The other Byron Young hasn't really panned out yet.
Yeah. I mean, he's already on a different roster.
Yes.
So.
And so, again, they're still working to fully confirm all the details on this story, but it does seem like the Las Vegas Raiders Done messed up.
How stupid. I don't know if the truth will ever come out. I mean, nobody's going to admit that they took the wrong player. But that's hilarious.
I think maybe down the road when Byron Young retires, we'll probably get the full story.
Yeah.
But for now, it seems like the Raiders picked the wrong Byron Young
That's really
in the
funny.
2023
And
NFL
you know
draft.
what? If I had to pick one franchise to do that, I'd probably say that's the most Raiders thing that I've ever heard.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I hope it's confirmed and this is true and this happened because I think it's hilarious that you went and you picked the wrong player in the draft.
For my technical foul today, I'm going to go with Xavier Lucas out of, formerly with Wisconsin, defensive back, but it sounds like he's going to be going to Miami. This is a weird situation, Alex. I don't know all the technicalities of it because it sounds like nobody does. It's pretty confusing. Sounds like this player, Xavier Lucas, wanted to enter the transfer portal, but Wisconsin would not let him. I guess it's the school that technically enters the player into the portal, not the player themselves. So Wisconsin refused to enter this player's name into the transfer portal. So he said, okay, well, guess what? I'm just going to unenroll from Wisconsin, and then I'll just enroll at Miami. And
What?
apparently that's a loophole on how to get around the transfer portal. It seems like that's too easy. I don't know why it works, but that's what happened, and that's what Xavier Lucas is doing.
Oh, no.
He simply unenrolled from Wisconsin and then just enrolled in classes at Miami.
No way.
So it's a can of worms that definitely is going to open some really crazy things. This is, again, a loophole that the NCAA is going to have to figure out how to stop. I think the transfer portal is kind of a joke anyways.
I mean, the NCAA has to step in and do something about this, right?
You would think so. I don't know.
Because if you don't, you're just
Right.
You're just opening doors for anybody to just
transfer
that.
whenever, yeah. So I don't know. Again, it's a weird situation, a lot of technicalities that, frankly, I don't think anybody really knows, and that's why he was able to do it, because it's like, okay. I'll say this. Xavier Lucas has a good lawyer. Whoever told him to exploit that, whoever figured that out and said, hey, let's try doing this.
So he's
Good lawyer.
now enrolled in Miami and can go to Miami
Yep.
without even entering the portal.
Yep.
No.
I guess.
That's going to they need to, the NCAA has to put a rule on that because that's just going to open so many doors.
So the NCAA provided a statement on this. They said NCAA rules do not prevent a student athlete from unenrolling from an institution, enrolling at a new institution, and competing immediately. Well, if you don't prevent that, then what is the point of the transfer portal anyways?
Yeah.
Like that's a joke, right? This whole thing is a joke. Am I being punked?
No, this is I'm reading up the article right now and this is happening.
I don't get it because it sounds too stupid, too simple, I guess, to be true. It's like, why did nobody think of this before? And also, why is this, again, what is the point of the transfer portal if you can just say, you know, I'm just going to not do that.
I'm going to drop all my classes and I'm going to go sign up for classes at this other school and then I'm going to go play for them.
Now, they have made it clear that you can't do this mid-season, right? So this player couldn't do it in the middle of the season. But, you know, being where it's off season right now, I guess that's why it is allowed. You can't play for two schools in the same season, but weird
Wild.
stuff. This stuff is getting crazy. Also, not quite a technical foul, but the Board of Education earlier this week ruled that when they do all the revenue sharing stuff, whenever that starts, it has to be Title IX compliant, by the way. So basically, a lot of people confuse Title IX with everything being equal, but it's not necessarily that. There's a little more nuance. It goes to the amount of revenue that it brings in, but it also has something to do with scholarships. Essentially, though, each school will be forced to give a certain percentage to each sport. And I think it's like, I don't have the numbers pulled up, but it was like 95% football, and then the remaining 5% would be split up into men's and women's basketball would get a percentage, and then other men's and women's sports would be getting a percentage as well. But that basically is a way for other schools to be guaranteed a portion of this, other sports, to be guaranteed a portion of this revenue sharing. Of course, it's going to be a small percentage because they don't bring in near the amount of money that football brings into every school. But again, it is a way to guarantee that certain sports, let's say tennis for whatever, to guarantee that they don't get left out. They get something.
I mean, that's fine.
I don't think it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's upset about it, but it makes sense. I think because it's going through the schools, it makes sense that is going to be regulated that way. It is important to note, though, that this does not apply to, the money that comes in from the collectives and the donors. Those can be distributed however they want to distribute them. But the actual revenue sharing, that is regulated on how that can be split up. So
that's fine, because if I'm John, the tennis player, at Miami or wherever, even if you get a little bit, I think that's fine. You're right.
Go buy a PS5.
Yeah, exactly. Use your $500 to go buy a PS5.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I like that.
No, I like it because, again, even though the percentage is minuscule, it ensures that people aren't getting completely forgotten about. So
yeah, there you go.
All right. Again, way over. We are running behind, but oh well, we're having fun today, Alex. Stay tuned. We're going to be giving away jazz tickets on the other side of this break. So if you want your chance to win tickets, stay tuned. We're going to be doing that next. Stay with us. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.